Okay, it being 7 o'clock, we are beginning the regular council meeting for the Township of Nipigon for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Councillor Harper, I was going to say Hardy, sorry. Councillor Harper has sent his regrets. He will not be here this evening. He's out of town. We'll start with our land acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Corporation of the Township of Nipigon respectfully acknowledges it is located on the traditional lands of the Red Rock Indian Band, signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850, and the township further respectfully acknowledges the historic presence of the Métis people on these lands. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, I have one that I've submitted to Lars tonight. It is for item 4E, which is the Superior Country Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee terms of reference. Okay. All right, approval of minutes for previous council minutes of October 22nd, 2024. Is there any discussion or anything on this? Okay. So this is resolution 259-2024, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart, that the council meeting minutes of October 22nd, 2024 are hereby adopted as recorded by the CAO clerk. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, next 3A, confirm and approve accounts. So this is resolution 260-2024. Moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart. Be it resolved that council receives, oh, hold on a second here. Sorry. Thank you.
Forgot one.
Something's out of order here. There we go. Okay. And the train starts to move. All right, sorry about that, guys. Resolution number 260-2024, moved by Councillor Cartwright, seconded by Councillor Westhaver, that the payment of accounts as listed on the following payment voucher be and the same is hereby confirmed and approved. Payment voucher number 33, 2024, in the amount of $39,625.87, and payment voucher number 34, 2024, in the amount of $304,086.58. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, next we have 4A, which is our CAO staff report. Sorry, I was going to get to it here. Okay, there's a few items on here. Is there anything, CAO, that you'd like to say about this report? General or?
Sure. Are you okay if I talk about separate items for procedure bylaw?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So the council's in receipt of a few bylaws just for draft. So the first two are the council code of conduct and the draft procedure bylaw. So the code of conduct is very similar to what was seen back at the October 8th meeting. The only additions at this point were for the finalization of the forms, which is like the declaration of interest. Or any forms with, if an individual wants to submit a complaint to the integrity commissioner. The other item as well that's in there is also definitions of both sets of the bylaw. So there's essentially two sets of in the bylaw. There's a Schedule A and B, which is the code of conduct, which is A, and section B is the related to the integrity commissioner. And council's also in receipt of a draft bylaw for the procedure bylaw. So there was quite a reworking in a number of these sections recommended to go to council for consideration. Some of the items are to, I guess, consider the ability to have special meetings just for specific departments, so whether it be public works, economic development, or other items if required, but also just gave a bit more definition and clarification for committees. So the committees were not really operating on a very strict scope, so this gives them more of a framework of how they're supposed to operate and keep them a bit more accountable as council as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on the report here?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Just wanted to quickly talk about the veterinary services bit of the report here. So looks like we got 430 responses in 4 days about the veterinary services, which is pretty clear that this is something that's needed,
You would
obviously.
probably triple that if you opened it up to a wider area.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no question, I think that it's something that's needed in the region. The difficulty will be like the CAO says in his report here, is to actually find someone to come out here, but there's different ways, you know, thinking outside the box that can happen. So it's great that that's being investigated by the township of Nipigon. We have our emergency management training exercise, our annual training exercise on November 27th from 10 to 3. And I don't recall if is that something that all council members are invited to attend? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's from 10 to 3, if anyone's
Yeah, that
interested in
was-
attending. It is very
Yeah,
interesting.
I was at
You
the
went
last
to
one,
the last one, right?
Day of the week is that?
Wednesday, I think?
Yeah, Wednesday.
That's when that generator was mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's at the community center in the multipurpose room. So that's when they have like they give us a scenario to go through, and all the different stakeholders that are there sort of go through all their, what they would be doing in that situation and what we should be doing in this situation. And then we figure out lessons learned and things like that. So yeah, it's a great exercise, something we have to do, but it's also something we should do as well. So. Okay, resolution 261-2024, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart. Hart, be it resolved that council receives staff report 2024-11-0501 for information and direct staff to act on the items numbered 3, 5, and 6 in the report. And that as per item number 6, council requests for a bylaw for the proposed water rate increases to be available for the November 19th, 2024 regular council meeting for consideration. 19th or the 18th?
19th.
It's 19th, okay. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay. So next, we have this is for the water bylaw, 4C, or this is the procedural bylaw? Because the water bylaw was just covered, okay. Okay, is there any questions about the procedural bylaw? Okay. So this is resolution 262-2024, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart. Be it resolved, or is that Cartwright? Sorry, Cart. You're confusing me now without putting your whole last name. Okay, be it resolved that leave be given to introduce a bylaw to establish a policy to govern the proceedings of council, the conduct of its members, and the calling of meetings. That the bylaw be read a first and second time, that the said bylaw be read a third time, and finally passed and numbered bylaw number 1949 of the Township of Nipigon. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay. So next we have, this is 4D. So this is the Council of Code of Conduct and Integrity Commissioner Procedure and Protocol Bylaw. Any discussion on this one?
No, pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Okay. So this is resolution 263-2024, moved by Councillor Westhaver, seconded by Councillor Hart. Be it resolved that leave be given to introduce a bylaw to establish policies related to council code of conduct and integrity commissioner procedure and protocol. That the bylaw be read a first and second time, that the said bylaw be read a third time, finally passed and numbered bylaw number 1950 of the Township of Nipigon. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay. Okay, so this is item 4E. So I am, this is the item I declared pecuniary interest for, so I am going to step out and I will have assign Deputy Mayor Gail Westhaver onto this.
Thank you. Was Dan, are you going to speak on to this?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
We supplied a terms of reference that that Superior Country is putting forward for our, for the Nipigon MAT committee. It's pretty self-explanatory. However, some things to note in here and what we're excited about is, basically what the voting membership will be made up for on the committee. So, 2 representatives from the accommodation sector, 1 from the culinary sector, 1 from the retail sector, 1's from arts and culture, 1 member representing the sports sector, 1 community member seat as well, and then 1 member representing the Superior North CFTC. And then a non-voting membership part of that would be the executive director of Superior Country and or designate, and then a representative as well, a non-voting representative from the township. That would be appointed from the CAO. So it's pretty self-explanatory, like I said, essentially just putting forward the purpose and the scope. We've had some conversation back and forth between Superior Country and municipal staff. But really it's going to be these individuals looking at that 50% of the municipal accommodation tax and making the decisions on how those dollars are going to be best spent in order to promote and develop Nipigon as a tourism destination.
And so that committee that you're talking about is for the other 50%. That'll be.
This would be the arm's length non-profit
Okay.
portion, correct?
Okay.
How do you pick the 2 members from the hotel sector? Do they have to apply?
So what will end up happening is a post will be made and then people are able to apply to those positions. We don't have an application process, so there's not a scoring criteria at this moment. In the event that we have more individuals looking to fill seats, I don't foresee that being an issue. We're pretty confident in the seats that we've selected, but if there's a position for 2 and we get 3 applicants, then we will look at developing and implementing our process. There is a process. Superior Country does have criteria in place if that does happen, and then we would just put that into effect.
And what if nobody applied?
Then if nobody applies, then what it does is it moves forward. So as it says in the terms of reference, it will be our responsibility to try to keep that committee staffed with those seats filled. However, if all the seats are not filled, it will still go to the committee will still operate, and then there will still be a 50% will make quorum for voting and whatnot. So it just falls underneath the Superior Country regular bylaws. However, it would be, if in the event that we only get 1 or 2, then that's something that would need to be addressed. Again, it's not a problem we've ever faced before. But if it were to come up, I'm sure we'd be able to come up for a solution for that. But as they are drafted now, the committee will be able to continue with any of those seats filled, or with many of them not.
Can somebody apply that is not in that sector, like the culinary and?
So what we've done with the seats is, yes, so individuals, there's 1 seat available for community member.
Oh.
And what that seat stands for is if nobody fits within those other sectors, that they would then fall under the community seat. So there is 1 seat that if somebody doesn't fall under any of those other speculations or the stipulations, that they would go under that seat.
How often do you have the meetings, like now that you're established, how often are your meetings with the different municipalities? Or is it monthly or quarterly?
So like do you mean like the MAT committee reports to the municipality?
Quarterly.
No, like how often do you have this group in a
Oh,
meeting?
the committee. So the committee will meet quarterly or as needed.
Oh, okay.
So right off the bat, the plan is always to at least keep the meetings going quarterly, even in, like, say, in our proposal, we had mentioned the first year, our recommendation is likely going to the committee will be to get a tourism strategy done. So when bigger projects like that are being done, we kind of need to wait for them to finish before we can proceed.
Yeah.
However, we still want to make sure that the committee is meeting and engaged in the process.
Right.
So at minimum, they'd be meeting quarterly, and then what we would do To our proposal to the township, it was set to offer the municipality an annual report, once a year report, but that's something that could be, Lars and I have been speaking to that a little bit, and that's something that will be fine tuned within the contract.
Does council get copies of the meetings? Or
So what I've done in other municipalities is I haven't given councils copies of each and every, the meeting minutes. We've just done an annual report, but if that's something that Nipigon would like and would like to get those minutes of each meeting, that's definitely something that we
Okay,
can do.
Glenn, you have a question?
Are those minutes gonna be public?
That's, again, we haven't done that with another, if anybody asks for them, they would be provided, so they are available to the public upon request. That's likely what Superior Country would like to do moving forward, just because it's easier. However, if the township feels that they want those minutes published somewhere, that's something that could be negotiated within the contract.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention too is all of those seats, and it does mention this in the terms of reference. At no time can council hold a quorum within those seats either. So council members are obviously more than welcome to be on that committee and to fill a seat where they can.
But just one.
But we can't have too many of them, and it wasn't, I don't think it was just one, actually. We could have, I believe, a maximum of two, but at no time can they hold quorum of the committee, because then it could cause a conflict. So that's something to be avoided,
So we can have two members on there, but not more than two, yeah.
Unless there's like 4 or 5, only 4 or 5 members, then you have to adjust to that.
Yeah, so say there's, at one point we have 10. And say only 4 people show up to the meeting and 2 of those people are councils, that meeting wouldn't be able to be held because they would make up a quorum, and the township can't control those MAT dollars, and even though they're kind of not, but it's through the committee, it's just something. we'd
So
rather
it's
avoid.
more advantageous than just to never have two, just one, right? In case, like that scenario.
I think we've always been fine keeping it to 2. I've never had, in other communities, we've had always 1, but we've never had an issue, but that's something that could be looked at as well.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty well covered. I don't think that we'll ever have an issue with that.
Okay. Do you have anything on that, Lars?
No, we went, we went through it a few times. We had a discussion last week, and today we also went through it. And we just wanted to make sure that it was as transparent as possible and it was fair for the members that were attending, so,
Yeah.
or part of it, sorry.
Okay, well, thank you, Dan.
Not a problem, anytime.
I guess we can move on. Get Suzanne back in here. Pardon?
Oh.
Is there a resolution?
Okay, she left it right here. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Nipigon receive the terms of reference for the Superior Country Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee as presented. All in favor? I didn't mix it up.
No,
She shuffled it.
she shuffled it up. Okay. So our next is the 2025 OCIF funds. So those are our annual infrastructure funds that we get, the regular funding that we don't apply for, we just get it. Used to be called the gas tax, I think it was, or something, or is this something different from that? Okay. And of note is that we're getting less than we did last year. Surprise. Yeah, I'm just sorry, I gotta get through this thing,
Didn't we just have a meeting and they said we were getting more?
right? No, I don't think they said that. They said,
Said
but
we
we
got
just
more.
gave you more a couple of years ago and now they're
Yeah.
clawing it back. Do you have any information on that, Lars, at all about why it's less?
So they use this metric for, part of it is with the FIRs, and so with the township we're kind of back, we have to still complete our FIRs for previous years, so they're still using previous numbers.
Okay,
And a lot of it's used on the current asset management plan, but they're actually updating how it's gonna be evaluated in 25.
Okay.
Yeah, for 26. Yeah.
This is still-
all right. Okay, so that was just for information, obviously. Anyone have any questions or anything for Lars on that? Okay, EDC, 5A Superior Country 2024 cruise ship report. I am not stepping out for this just because it's purely for information, and I do have my mayor hat on today, so I'm gonna have, when Dan is here. So if anyone has any questions on that cruise ship report, you can ask Dan.
Ask Dan.
Does anyone have any questions for
Just
Dan?
did that too.
Any questions? Okay.
Do these guys have, the translators with them? Did they bring their own translators on?
So most of the times the cruise ship staff they will act as translators. But for issues like, or for activities such as some of the guided hikes that we did, we had Parks Canada staff there that were also bilingual. And in Red Rock, actually, one of their employees was bilingual as well. So if there's ever a need for translators, that's something that we would definitely be looking to hire locals for, but at this point, we haven't needed to actually hire any translators. It's interesting to note, even a cruise ship that comes from Paris, like the Ponant, I always say it wrong, sorry, Suzanne, Ponant.
Ponant.
I always say Ponant, but apparently that's wrong.
Ponant, yeah, it's Ponant with no T.
When they come, it's a French cruise ship, and I was kind of expecting 100% French-speaking individuals. Yeah, no, lots of Germans. You have the French on there, so lots of different languages. However, the majority of people, even if you visit Europe now, the majority of people speak English too. So it's actually pretty good. And a lot of the travelers would rather converse in English because they're visiting in an English country.
Yeah, part of the experience.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty neat. But no, we haven't needed to hire them just yet.
Would they ever ask ahead of time if they did have somebody that, like a Chinese speaking person on board that can't speak English?
We never.
Never had that?
We never specifically asked the ship, and they never informed us of that. I imagine that that's something that the ship would cover if there was somebody that went directly to the ship and didn't speak the language, and then if there was gonna be an additional barrier that the ship would then inform us of that barrier.
So it's up to them, basically.
Yeah, when it comes to that, because what they end up doing is they sell these excursions, right? These, some of them, it's provided free to the ship guests, some of them are pay to play, like the individuals need to purchase a guided hike and things like that, so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And then the ship actually lets us know their needs and requirements, and then Superior Country works to fulfill those needs and requirements by utilizing locals.
And it looks like most of them are going to come back to it.
It's hard to say. So Viking and Hapag Lloyd now have been coming to Battle Island for quite some time. There was a very nice happy accident where Hapag Lloyd ended up having to come to Red Rock and Terrace Bay, which wasn't originally planned for, but now that they've been there and they've seen what we have to offer, we're hoping that that will expand their itinerary. So it was a very happy accident. It's hard to say. We are already making bookings with Viking. We are actively promoting the Lake Superior North Shore Inside Passage to these different cruise ships. So Viking is already booking for certain locations, and same with Hapag Lloyd, and we're in conversations with other ships that haven't been here either. So the promotions are very ongoing, but I can't tell you for certain who's coming, who's not just yet. Within the report, there are some goals that the organization has set that you can take a look at, and a part of that is attracting more ships, more visitation, and to spread that economic wealth around. So, and speaking of economic wealth, I did want to bring notice to the fact that Superior Country tries, even though Nipigon didn't have a ship directly in its port, we do spread the economic wealth around whenever we can. So when they were in Red Rock for the barbecue, for instance, buying some of the groceries that we needed there, we had representatives from Dorian there from Wolf River Farms doing the barbecue. So we try as much as we can spread that economic impact. I mean, it's not massive. It was $100,000 this year from what we were able to track. Our estimations is probably the economic impact on the North Shore communities is probably around 150 to 200,000. But what we were able to track money through Superior Country is about $100,000, just shy of $100,000. So, while it doesn't sound like a lot when you're talking big industry, it is a lot, especially for tourism, because that's $100,000 that wasn't in our communities 2
That's
years
right,
ago.
yeah.
So.
Good for you. That's great.
Actually, I can't take all the credit, and I know Mayor Kuko has her mayor hat on, but
Yeah.
100% Superior Country wouldn't be able to do this without our employee.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice pictures she had there too.
Yeah, and actually in stating that, we hired somebody to do all new video, all new photos, this year, so that's gonna be rolled out into our marketing approaches, and fingers crossed. I know Nipigon hasn't had a ship directly here. Hapag-Lloyd did express interest in having shuttles come to Nipigon if they come in the future, so we're really hoping to get that off the ground. We're hoping to get a ship right here. It might be difficult because they gotta pass right by Red Rock to get here, but at least to get the land transportation in place to get them here, but it always depends on what the ship wants.
Yeah.
We cater to them, we don't tell them what to do, they tell us what they want and we make it happen, and we make suggestions, and we always try to push that economic spread.
That's great.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Dan?
No.
Okay. Okay, next we have, our consultants report from Harold Wilson, who is our, economic development consultant, for the time being. Would you like to say anything about your report, or just take questions, or what would you like to do?
That's actually up to you. I could say a few words and then maybe highlight a couple things in here, or I can leave it up to you to ask questions. And if you haven't asked questions on stuff I'd like you to talk about, I can always augment it that way. So we can. But really want to thank you for this opportunity. Again, I know that again, I've worked economic development throughout Northwestern Ontario, and it can be both an exciting but also a daunting challenge. How do you put together an operation that's going to be doing what it is that the community needs, and that you maximize your benefit, which is really what economic development is all about, which is how do you maximize the benefit of the resources you have for your community. And so an economic development office should be doing that for you at the same time as there is an investment that you're making. So how do you maximize that? So that's what I've been doing. I've been looking at a lot of the documents that are already out there, taking a look at some of the work that has been done in the past, some of the work that had wanted to be done and maybe hadn't been seen through. And so there's a lot of things that I'm still putting together for that, at least over the next month. But this seemed to be an opportunity now to come before you. So maybe I should just throw it out to you for questions that you might have. And if not, there's a few things I wouldn't mind highlighting.
Anyone have any questions for Harold?
I
Yes,
just-
go ahead.
I guess my question would be if we acquired any funding that was directly sent to our council and township, like any freebies, government initiatives and things like that. Like,
Are you talking with an economic, like there are programs that can help to support an economic development office? Yes, and I would be encouraging you to utilize those. Whether it's a FedNor program or possibly something as well through some support through Ministry of Northern Development Mines. I'll tell you, there's one that's really trying to attract international investment, but there's an angle about some things going on in this area now that you may be able to utilize. And so it helps with investment readiness. And they can even put together a help with a strategy and some of these elements for investment attraction. Especially if we're talking about, and I mentioned this in my report, but something like, say, Rock Tech or some of these other projects that are going on in your area.
Right.
I think that Nipigon makes a lot of sense to be a place for supply and services. So if you're going to talk to some of these companies about what else that they need to help them do their jobs, well, here's some businesses that would be perfect to have in your community. Or we might need repair shops that can do certain things. Or we might need a place to store a lot of the equipment as we're doing construction. Then great, those are other economic opportunities, and we might be able to build on that. That's work that I've done in the past. Say, my last job, oil and gas, it was a huge thing, but it was supply and services. So we weren't actually doing the drilling, but we supplied a lot of companies that did that. and there were more opportunities. So being able to be investment ready, to be able to help to attract and to answer questions of those companies, either the large ones that need support, or some people are saying, look, if they're in your neighborhood, how do I become part of this? How can I have a location here in Nipigon that can help to support some of those development? Yes, there would be some support, some funding for those kinds of initiatives.
Thank you.
I have a question. So you've spoken to, businesses.
Yes.
Undertaking the, business program to better support and understand the needs of local businesses. So when you're talking to the businesses, like how do you record that data? How do you record that information? And is it gonna be available to us or to Lars, or to, like, how is that gonna?
Well, it's a formal survey that we have put together. I've utilized some of these in the past, so we went over the survey and threw some stuff out because it was a little bit lengthy. Same time, it's about 14 pages, so we are actually, we're writing these things down, now, not to worry businesses that I haven't talked to yet. We don't go over methodically all the 14 pages, because some answers to a question, great, we can just go to the next page or whatever, right? But we're trying to gather information from them, so we understand a lot of the tombstone data on the company itself, on employees, on some of the challenges that they have, some of the opportunities that they see here, things we can do to help to support those companies. So these are the things, and we are writing them all down. So we've seen 10 so far. I've done additional meetings with some organizations, be it with, whether it's the chamber, or I had a great conversation at your hospital last week, or some other organizations that are there. Example is your bank. I didn't see them in the business capacity, but wanted to talk about access to capital. So had a conversation over there at RBC. So these are some of those things that we're doing. But yes, we've got the documentation behind it all. We're trying to pull out of that some of the main things that we've heard, because those things can provide us with, well, here's some other opportunities. Or if they're all saying that same thing, that's a project in itself that perhaps an economic development office can work on. It might be something council needs to be aware of. So then that would be forwarded through the CAO to council to say, these things keep coming up. Here's some ideas, something we might be able to do that would support the business community. And those can be large projects, they can be small ones. So we've talked about one, I don't know if I talked about that one, but the idea about just a number of people talked about the Red Cross certification, right? To be able to do that, they get to say, great, can we do something here locally? Because when 6 out of 10 businesses are saying that's something they could really use, as opposed to having to travel to get it, can it be delivered here? That's the type of a thing that you can do to support your local businesses. Larger ones are issues of labor, issues of housing keep coming up. So those things we're capturing. So, sorry, long answer, I guess, is that, yes, we're capturing all those things. We'll have all of the documentation. We're also trying to put them into, if we had a CRM, or we had somebody that would put that in there for a client record management. But at the same time as we're grouping things in there, we're getting all the data, and we're seeing another, at least 4, maybe 6 this week. So that will be something that we will have. And again, from that, there are various reports or different bits of information we will share with council.
When you say we, is there a
Sorry,
staff person
we,
working
I
with
mean,
you?
I mean the staff, I don't mean
Okay.
we, I guess I'm not part of the we.
Oh.
But yeah, we're providing some of that support. So you have a staffer that's been accompanying me on these. And
Okay.
So again, how do you do that? And then there's the basic things. How do you really draw it out? Because one of the most important things when you're doing these visits, you're trying to assess if the company wants to grow. That's one thing I'm always looking for. Do they want to grow? Are they interested in that? Or are they looking maybe, no, I'm at the level I want now? Or are they talking succession? Because we talk, part of this whole visitation is for business expansion and retention. Retention is they might say, look, I'm looking to shut down in 3 years. Okay, how are you going to do that? It might be a business we can retain in our community. How do we attract someone perhaps that can come in either now or in the not too distant future to come in to take over that business so that you don't lose something that's here right now. So a lot of these business visitations, I say it's the oxygen or it's the blood of an economic development office to understand what's going on there. And also to start saying, well, you're all going to this one supplier, perhaps they need to have a presence here. You know, so again, different ideas come out of this as you're doing it. So it won't be lost. It's not something that I'm taking care of or anything else like that, but those notes are all with the township, and we're cataloging them, and there'll be something to be accessed.
Is there anything else you want to add, Carl?
Couple of things, if I can. Couple of things that I've identified. One is with regard to the community profile. So as I said, we had a discussion with staff here with the township as well. So we went through both the 2018 and the 2024 community profile. There was a couple things I thought that needed to be augmented or elevated in the community profile. So we've talked to your consultants and they're reviewing that now. I just had some correspondence with them again. I think that was either yesterday or Friday, said that they are working on that. They're going to come back to us. And at the very least, we'll have it in a format that we can augment, we can add to. Because again, unfortunately, sometimes you'll be presented with something that is not easily edited or kept up to date. And so we want to have that in a format that you can use that and then tie it into your own website. Because there's a lot of important information in there for investment and for the assets that this community has. So it's important we keep that updated as much as possible. The other thing that I did want to mention, I had one of the items, because I went through your strategic plan, I identified a couple of the things that are under your economic development office, what you want that person to do. And one was to prepare a vacant mill site for development. Obviously, that's something that you want. You have that industrial land. So we were taking a look at it, and I know that you've got some interest in some of that land now. You've got some people that are already, but what else can that land do? How do we do a highest and best use of that land? That's an important thought. So if you've already got, say, 2 people on there now, what other acreages do you have that's on that? And then how would you provide access? What infrastructure might you have to do? And you want to have flexibility. So if somebody needs 5 acres, but they might say, I don't need 5 acre site, I need 10. Can you put some of that flexibility in there? So we take a look at that land, and I'm suggesting that for, hopefully you have someone that with the experience to be able to give you the best advice possible on how to make it as marketable as possible to give you the value, so you're maximizing the value of that land. And if there's some adjacent land, something else, because I know there's talk about those things, at least how might that fit in? Because you don't want to go with one plan and then if things change, you've either lost some of that investment that you've made. So you want to have that flexibility in there. The second one that I mentioned in here, because I went through not just the strategy you had, but the 2019 strategy. And I've had a conversation with a number of councillors on that one, is that there were a lot of very good points in that, which is things that the Economic Development Office should do. But a lot of those didn't actually get moved forward. And so I think part of what my task is before I'm done is to outline what I think the priorities are, and then how we would move steps to actually move those along. So that you can see, yes, that's an investment we should make, or yes, when our EDO starts, that's got to be there. And I know one of the conversations we had was about the mapping part. And again, it's so important that we have some mapping and that it also be digital, so that you're able to identify all the properties that you have and the buildings, vacant buildings that you have that are up for sale or that aren't used. So if we're talking property, there's different ones on the highway. There's properties in town. There's a number here. I met with Wendy Ferris, for example, just yesterday, talking from a commercial real estate perspective, what you have there and how we can publicize that better to attract more interest in this area. How can we make sure that people have that information? You've got your zoning, but how else can we help to promote it? So I think that's something that is I would suggest it can be done for not a huge investment, but it's going to be really critical. I've always thought that maps are one of my best tools when I've done economic development. It helps not just for myself, but so everybody within the township, because you never know who's going to be approached saying, well, what is for sale? Or it's a Sunday afternoon, how do I find this out? If people know how to access that, they can at least provide a little bit, and your own community ambassadors can be helped. I know when I've done work other places, it's amazing all the different members of your staff and administration and your councilors as well, council members. You're all part of these ambassadors. You're all part of the thing to attract investment. If you know where to send them, that's important.
We did request something like that from the previous CEO, CAO. Right?
It's been requested multiple times
Yeah.
at multiple different levels for years.
And delivering on it would, I think, be something that I would suggest would be a priority. So I know you've heard it before, I'm sure you have. I've had conversations with others that several people told me, well, the province was going to do this, so we really didn't do it. The problem that they haven't done it. So sometimes these things, if you do that initial work and then somebody else comes up with something, great, you can plug into that too. You know, we wanna make sure that as many, organizations, people, support that's out there that are able to say, hey, we've got some incredible opportunities in Nipigon. With some of these buildings or something, how do we get out there and promote it? Just over the weekend, someone was in town looking for that exact thing, and unfortunately, it's a weekend. Well, how do you get that information and be able to do some mapping and be able to have it on your site? And let people know in town that that's where it is, that's critical.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, 6A, NOSM request for support for their 20th anniversary. So we had NOSM being the Northern Ontario School for Medicine, celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. So we have a resolution 265-2024, moved by Councillor Cartwright, seconded by Councillor Westhaver. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Nipigon hereby donates $500 towards the NOSM University's 20th anniversary. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we have a couple of different resolutions from some different areas here, or sorry, one from the town of Aurora and one from Noma. So we have mover and seconder for this one. Is there any discussion on this one, guys, before we get to the resolution? So resolution number 266-2024, moved by Councillor Cartwright, seconded by Councillor Westhaver. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Nipigon supports the following resolutions. Number one, the town of Aurora calling on the federal government to allocate a percentage of the GST collected on property sales, land transfer tax to municipalities. And number two, the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association requesting for the 2025 Ontario budget to support the attraction of investment and maintaining forest operations and employment in Ontario. And that a copy of these resolutions be sent to the town of Aurora and Noma. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, oh, all right. Unlike our last council meeting, this one is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
We're already at closed session, but before we go into closed session, we'll do any other business. So we'll start with Councillor Cartwright. Do you have anything to say for any other business at this time? No, no, thank you to your zombies for coming.
I wasn't sure if that was gonna be included in the library. I was just, we were in cahoots there. But so, yeah, we had our first annual zombie walk last Monday night, and it turned out pretty good. It was a little windy, but we had 34 participants walking in the zombie walk, and I think everybody said they had a great time, and everybody said we want to do it again next year. So,
Nice.
Bonus.
so maybe next year we'll have a better turnout. We'll have even more time ahead, to get the word out.
And you've collected food for the food bank
And
for
we
that as
collected
well.
quite a lot of food
Nice.
banks and a little bit of cash.
Nice. Okay. Councillor Westhaver, do you have any other business?
No, I'm still on the microphone thing. That's so outstanding. Outstanding and with not just me.
Okay. Councillor Hart?
Good at this time.
Okay, staff, CEO Lars? No, CEO Lars, CEO Muffin.
Okay.
Okay, I just have a couple of things. So before our next meeting is Nipigon Day, November 17th, Sunday's November 17th, so it falls on a Sunday this year. It's our second annual Nipigon Day. So there aren't a lot of restaurants and shops open and things like that, but it sounds like I just saw a poster online for something happening at Edge Arts. I think at 2 o'clock, there's gonna be some music happening. And donations for the long-term care are gonna be accepted for admission. And I'm not sure of anything else that's going on, but I'm sure businesses are free to have promotions throughout the week and on that day if they're open. So yeah, looking forward to that. Yes,
Has there been any entrants for the logo contest?
I don't know. I wasn't aware of a local contest.
Not that I know of on that. I don't
Okay.
received any.
And then, of course, Remembrance Day is happening on Monday, November the 11th, and the Legion will have their regular service. I'm imagining around 11 o'clock or quarter to 11, whenever they, is it 10:15? It's,
10:50.
oh, 10:50, so when the doors.
When they start, so that they have this minimum of silence at 11.
Okay. So, yeah, check the Legion Facebook page. I don't think they posted anything about it yet, so, yeah. Okay, so I think that's it. So resolution 267-2024 moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Westhaver, that this council now resolve into closed session at 7:46 PM. Under section two. Moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Westhaver, that this meeting resolves into open session at 8:42 PM. All in favor? Opposed? And carried. Okay, resolution number 269-2024, moved by Counselor Westhaver, seconded by Counselor Cartwright. Be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer is authorized to proceed as directed in the in-camera closed session and accepts the in-camera meeting minutes of October 22nd, 2024. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I just want to point out that unfortunately, we did miss number 7A in our former open session, which was cemetery September 19th, 2024 committee meeting minutes from the cemetery committee. Does anyone have any comments or questions about that? Okay, and those are not for our approval, they're just for accepting, so we're good with those, no questions about that. Okay, and I apologize to the cemetery committee for missing that one line there. All right, so we have resolution number 270-2024, moved by Counselor Hart, seconded by Counselor Cartwright, that this meeting do now adjourn at 8:43 PM to meet on November 12th for the meeting to discuss public works matters, and to meet on November 19th, 2024 for the next regular council meeting at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Opposed? And carried.